Welcome to Kids Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2018 superhero movie Black Panther. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we hear a voice from a young boy asking the adult with him to tell him a story. The adult's voice tells the story of vibranium, a gigantic meteorite with the toughest metal, vibranium, crashed in the region of the sources of the Nile River millions of years ago, and it affected the plants. Later in the Age of Humans, 5 tribes in the land named Wakanda battled for control of that vibranium until a spirit led a certain warrior to find and eat a heart-shaped herb affected by the metal. He gained superhuman abilities and became the first Black Panther, the protector of Wakanda. 4 of the 5 tribes submitted to his power, but the Jabari tribe chose to take refuge in the mountains, distancing themselves from the other tribes. The Wakandans used the vibranium to develop highly advanced technology. They see the horrors of other nations and isolated themselves from the rest of the world. They hide and pretend like they are not industrially developed like a third world country. In 1992, in Oakland, California, Prince Njobu vows to share Wakanda's technology with people of African descent around the world in order to help them conquer their oppressors. Njobu enlists black market arms dealer Ulysses Clow to infiltrate Wakanda and remove a cache of vibranium. Then a knock is heard at the door. James opens it to find 2 Dora Milaje warriors, and Njobu recognizes them and reveals himself as a Wakandan. Entering the room with the warriors is King T'Chaka, Njobu's brother, the king of Wakanda. T'Chaka asked Njobu to come home after being sent to California as a spy to catch Ulysses Clow, but Njobu has other plans. T'Chaka then reveals that James is actually Zuri, another Wakandan spy. The king says that he is not going to let that happen again, and goes on to learn that Njobu has sold all the vibranium to Ulysses. Turns out that T'Chaka is really smart, and he's already left one of his spies there to spy on his brother to get to the truth of what he's been up to. The spy goes on to show the king everything, and T'Chaka is pissed off to learn about what his brother's been up to. The king asks him to come back home to put him on trial for his crimes. Outside in the courtyard, a group of children look up to the sky to see T'Chaka's ship fly overhead. In the present day, T'Challa is set to become king after T'Chaka's death. He is flying over Nigeria with Okoye, a Dora Milaje general. The plan is to extract his ex-girlfriend Nakia, who is undercover with mercenaries smuggling women and young men as soldiers. As Black Panther, T'Challa jumps out of the jet and uses Wakandan tech to disable the mercenaries' vans. As the goons step out to confront T'Challa, he fights them all before finding Nakia. She joins T'Challa and Okoye as they return home. The 3 return to Wakanda and reunite with T'Challa's mother, Ramonda, and his younger sister, Shuri, the nation's current technological genius, in preparation for T'Challa's ceremony to become the new king. All the tribes gather by a waterfall to witness Shuri, and who gives T'Challa a drink that removes the power of the Black Panther. And with that, nobody from the other tribes choose to challenge T'Challa until the Jabari tribe shows up, and their leader, M'Baku, steps up to try and take the throne from T'Challa. The 2 fight with M'Baku, almost succeeding until T'Challa gains the upper hand and puts M'Baku in a hold over the falls until he taps out and surrenders, allowing T'Challa to rightfully claim the throne. After the ceremony, T'Challa is given another drink to restore his power before being buried in sand so that he may be taken into the ancestral plane. There, T'Challa sees his father. They embrace as T'Challa breaks down upon seeing him. T'Challa expresses his concern over becoming king and doing the right thing. T'Chaka tells his son that while he is a good man, it's hard for a good man to be the king. The scene then shifts and we're taken to London, and there we see a gang led by Clow, including Eric Stevens, also known as Killmonger, is at a museum admiring artifacts from African cultures. He asks the guide about the hammer-like weapon, which she identifies as one thing, but Killmonger corrects her and says it is made of vibranium from Wakanda. The guide then passes out from something Killmonger slipped in her coffee in order to create a diversion. Medics arrive, but they're really Clow and his goons. They kill the guards, and Killmonger steals the weapon before getting away with the crew. T'Challa walks through downtown Wakanda with Nakia. He asks her to stay home to help him run things around there, but she shows hesitance in continuing to work in Wakanda. Later, T'Challa is with his best friend Wakabi as they check on a wild rhino in a pen. They are also called by Okoye to the palace. Clow is said to sell the vibranium piece to an American buyer in South Korea that night. Wakabi wants to join T'Challa in finding Clow, as he murdered Wakabi's parents, but T'Challa asks him to stay and keep things secure while he's gone. Before the mission, T'Challa meets with Shuri, who has developed a number of impressive technology, including sound-absorbent shoes, which she calls sneakers, as well as modifications to his Black Panther suit. It is disguised as a necklace, and it absorbs each hit it takes and turns it into kinetic energy. The scene then changes to a meeting where T'Challa, Okoye, and Nakia plan to intercept Clow at an underground casino in Busan, where he will be selling the axe to an unknown buyer. They decide that this way they will also be able to get their hands on the main thief as well. We then get to see a man named Everett Ross, and this is where we see the biggest thief of them all, named Clow. The plan, however, goes wrong when T'Challa discovers the buyer is the CIA agent, Everett Ross, and Clow suspects the deal's a setup. The situation turns chaotic, and now the fight between them and Ulysses begins. As they fight, the Black Panther goes on to learn that Ulysses also has made advanced weapons because he too has vibranium. He manages to defend himself against the deadly attacks of the Black Panther and gets out of there. T'Challa follows him in his suit, while Shuri rides in a car through a projection back home that operates an actual car that T'Challa rides in. The villains shoot at him, but the hits from the bullets give him the kinetic energy that he redirects to those villains. Clow blasts at Nakia and Okoye, destroying their car but not killing them. T'Challa reaches Clow's car and rips out a tire, causing him to crash. T'Challa goes on to finish Clow, but Nakia reminds him that people are watching. They take Clow into custody. Ross interrogates Clow while T'Challa and Okoye listen in through a device T'Challa planted on Ross. Clow reveals to Ross that he previously didn't know about Wakanda and all that it contained. Outside, Killmonger and his crew set up explosives behind a wall. Nakia sees this on security cameras and runs to warn everyone, but the villains blow up the wall. They start shooting, and Ross pushes Nakia out of the way, taking a bullet in the back. Killmonger takes Clow away, and T'Challa notices a ring around Killmonger's neck, similar to the one that belonged to his grandfather. Ross is seriously injured, saving Nakia in the attack, and rather than pursue Clow, T'Challa takes Ross to Wakanda because they have no other option, as Nakia goes on to tell the Black Panther that if he is taken to a normal hospital, they are not going to be able to save his life. Then Ross is given something to keep him stabilized until they return home. Meanwhile, Killmonger saves Ulysses and takes him back to a very secluded place where no one of his acquaintances resides, and he wants to go to Wakanda. Cloud takes Killmonger's girlfriend as a hostage because he has other plans, but Killmonger kills the woman himself before shooting Cloud. He tells Killmonger that he won't let him get to Wakanda until he reveals a tattoo on his lip that Wakandans have, and he then shoots Cloud dead. Back in Wakanda, Wakabi expresses disappointment with T'Challa for failing to bring in Cloud. At the same time, Ross is being tended to by Shuri, who uses vibranium to heal his wounds. T'Challa then goes to find Zuri and asks him why Killmonger has his grandfather's ring. Zuri is then forced to admit that he knew about N'Jobu. In a flashback to 1992, we see that N'Jobu had stolen the vibranium to spread it to other people of African descent so that they could fight back against their oppressors. N'Jobu turned his gun on Zuri, and T'Chaka stepped in and killed N'Jobu with his claws. It filled T'Chaka with great regret, and they left his son Eric behind. The boy was on the courtyard when this happened, and he later found his father's body. Eric would go on to become a Black Ops soldier who earned the name Killmonger due to his high body count, which is evident by the marks on his body for everyone he's ever killed. Killmonger enters Wakanda with Klaus's corpse. He presents it to Wakabi, who escorts Killmonger to the palace. Killmonger reveals his true name, N'Jadaka, and he is N'Jobu's son. Wakabi confirms to everyone when he shows them Killmonger's ring. He announces his intention to claim the throne, and he challenges T'Challa for the spot. Killmonger tells T'Challa that his father, King T'Chaka, is the one who killed his father in cold blood, adding that he himself is the real king of Wakanda. Killmonger says that he deserves to be the Black Panther more than anyone else. Killmonger is told that in order to become the king of Wakanda, he's going to have to defeat the real king, also known as T'Challa, in hand-to-hand combat. And the man is more than ready to fight. The fight begins, and Killmonger seems to have an upper hand. The current king of Wakanda tries to make a comeback into the fight, but Killmonger seems to be too much for him, and he ends up defeating T'Challa in ritual combat. Amidst the fight, he even goes on to kill Zuri, knowing that this is the man that became the reason behind his father's killing. He then goes on to throw T'Challa into a waterfall, and everyone there is scared. They're all in shock to see T'Challa being killed and then thrown into a waterfall. The necklace of the king is given to Killmonger, and he is now hailed as the new king of Wakanda. After ingesting the heart-shaped herb to gain the power of the Black Panther, he goes on to kill the woman guarding the herbs and then sets everything on fire, making sure that no one after him is able to gain the powers of the Black Panther. He wants to make sure that he has no competitors in the future. He plans on living as the king of Wakanda for as long as he lives, but Nakia manages to sneak one heart-shaped herb away with her. They kneel down to him, but out of fear, not out of respect. Turns out that the main reason behind his coming to Wakanda is to make sure he finishes what his father started years ago. So Killmonger goes right away to enact his father's plan, preparing shipments of Wakandan weapons to be distributed to Wakandan operatives around the world. He makes it abundantly clear that he wants the whole world to kneel in front of him. Nakia, Shuri, Ross, and T'Challa's mother, Ramonda, flee their place because they are aware that if they remain there with Killmonger, he's going to have them killed, as he is always going to see them as a threat. So they go on to seek the aid of Jabari. There they see M'Baku, the same man who challenged T'Challa for the throne of Wakanda, and they ask him for help, and this is when they go on to learn that M'Baku's men have found and are caring for the comatose T'Challa. T'Challa's mother and sister now go on to take care of him. Ramonda grounds the herbs into a drink to give T'Challa before they bury him in the snow that he rests upon. He goes into the ancestral place and sees T'Chaka again, and this time condemning his actions and leaving Killmonger behind. T'Chaka admits that this was the truth he hid from his son, and he expresses regret. T'Chaka wakes up, and he then recalls what happened, and they decide to take the throne back from the evil force that is Killmonger. They all agree with T'Challa's plan, and they decide to make their way back to Wakanda. When he gets there, he sees that a lot has changed in his absence. He sees many planes loaded with vibranium that are to be distributed all around the world, because this is exactly what Killmonger's father wanted, and by doing this, he died. As one of their jets flies overhead, it is shot down by T'Challa, making his return as Black Panther. W'Kabi and his army charge against T'Challa, and he blasts them away with kinetic energy. When the people of Wakanda see their original Black Panther back, they know he was never actually defeated. Killmonger, however, goes to tell him that he has nothing to back his claims and that it is just as useless. T'Challa then goes on to tell him to fight him if he wants to remain the king of Wakanda. He is going to have to finish off the real king first, but Killmonger refuses to fight, and he says he already has Wakanda and the warriors of the place take orders from him. On top of that, he's been doing all he ever wanted to do, so he right away refuses to fight the real Black Panther. It, however, turns out to be a bad idea because when Killmonger refuses to cooperate, his claim to the throne is immediately invalidated, and Okea and Dora Milaje turn against him. So the fight now begins, and M'Baku's tribe is also on the side of T'Challa now, and he's brought all his warriors to fight off Killmonger. However, Killmonger, who is now wearing a suit of Black Panther armor of his own, resists with force along with the border tribe. Before Killmonger can hurt Shuri, T'Challa tackles him and they fall down into the vibranium mines. This is when the final fight begins between Killmonger and the real Black Panther. Both of them are equipped with a suit made of vibranium, and both of them are equally powerful and skillful, so it turns out to be a deadly fight. Shuri gives Ross access to a jet to take down the others before they leave Wakanda. Ross, piloting a remote jet with Shuri's guidance, shoots down the planes carrying the weapons before they can leave the country. The battle goes poorly for T'Challa's side until M'Baku and the Jabari bring even more force to support him, thus turning the tide. T'Challa and Killmonger's battle carries them into the heart of the vibranium mine, where sonic disrupted, used in the transport of the metal, incapacitate their vibranium armor. While Killmonger's body is briefly exposed, T'Challa stabs his cousin. He takes Killmonger to see the sunset of Wakanda and offers to heal him, but he refuses. He pulls the dagger out of his chest and dies peacefully. Things become calm once again in Wakanda as T'Challa reclaims his throne. He once again asks Nakia to stay in Wakanda, as he has plans for her to help him. The two of them kiss. T'Challa brings Shuri to Oakland outside Killmonger's old apartment. T'Challa reveals he brought the building, as well as 2 buildings next to it, so that they can establish a Wakandan outreach program that Nakia and Shuri will spearhead. He then brings down their jet so that the kids in the courtyard may see and be in awe of it. One of the boys then approaches T'Challa and asks who he is. In the mid-credits scene, T'Challa is joined by Nakia, Shuri, and Okea at the United Nations. He announces his plan to bring Wakanda out of hiding in the hope that they may work together with the rest of the world. In the post-credit scene, 3 Wakandan children are looking upon someone in a hut. Shuri orders them not to bother that person. He steps out of the hut and we see it's Bucky Barnes. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.